2014 was a monumental year for WWE in many different ways, not least when it came to pay-per-view. Starting with WrestleMania, every WWE pay-per-view thereafter would be available to watch on the WWE Network for the more than reasonable cost of $9.99 per month. Of course, WWE would also add countless hours of original programming, as well as tons of archive footage from their excessive back catalogues over time. But really, for most modern fans, the big draw was getting the monthly specials at a decent price. In 2014, there were 12 pay-per-views in total, and they ranged from the downright disastrous to the outright spectacular. There was a lot going on in the company during the course of the calendar year, from superstars quitting, legends debuting, favourites returning, and major injuries scuppering key storylines. It was a topsy-turvy year in which not everything went according to plan, oftentimes live on pay-per-view itself. On what shows did that happen? Which events were worth your tenner a month, and which ones would you have to pay me to watch again? I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic.com, and this is every WWE pay-per-view of 2014 ranked from worst to best. Join us! Number 12, Battleground. Battleground 2014 doesn't have a lot going for it, and while not outright terrible or offensive or anything, it's just sinfully boring, and the match most people were looking forward to, Seth Rollins vs Dean Ambrose, was cancelled and replaced with a backstage segment. Bait meets switch. The show started brightly with a very entertaining Usos vs Harper and Rowan 2 out of 3 Falls match for the tag team titles, but then started its descent and never truly recovered. A hot opener was followed by unremarkable matches between AJ Lee and Paige over the Divas title, Rusev and Jack Swagger, Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho, and a geek-filled battle royal to declare a new Intercontinental Champion. Miz won it, last eliminating Dolph Ziggler to become King of the Geeks. Sorry, I mean IC Champ. And in the main event, John Cena successfully defended his WWE title in an all-right 4-way match against Kane, Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns. You can skip this one. Number 11, TLC and S. Number 11 is tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. Yes, adding an extra household item made this one even more extreme, but sadly, not any better as a show. Once again, the pay-per-view started in style with Dolph Ziggler and Luke Harper having a cracking ladder match over the Intercontinental title, the show-off taking a mountain of punishment but coming out on top in the end. The Usos vs Miz and Mizdow was just a match, nothing you'd necessarily feel compelled to pay for, while Big Show and Rowan's steel stairs match actually owes me money, because it was crap. Better was John Cena and Seth Rollins' table match. Although they've had superior and more memorable bouts elsewhere, there was nothing memorable about Nikki Bella and AJ Lee's Divas title match, although it wasn't half bad really. The Big Red Machine and the Big Guy battled in a big chairs match that failed to leave a big impression, while Rusev and Jack Swagger's US title match was quite clearly surplus to requirements. And in the main event, Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt were having a rather tasty TLC match right up until the banana peel finish. Boy, did that one blow up in WWE's face. Number 10, Royal Rumble. Speaking of blowing up in their face, WWE's decision to book Batista as the 2014 Royal Rumble winner almost caused a riot because those in attendance were dead set on their favourite, Daniel Bryan, getting the nod instead. Bryan had competed in the first match of the night, a total show stealer with Bray Wyatt, and when he didn't enter the Rumble itself, fans were furious, pouring scorn on the usually beloved Rey Mysterio, who entered at number 30 and signalled that Daniel Bryan would not be involved. Batista, who had recently returned to the company following a 4-year hiatus, was showered with boos as he tossed out Roman Reigns to win what had been a fairly poor Rumble match that is remembered mainly for the negative reaction to its winner and for being CM Punk's last appearance in a WWE ring. Elsewhere, Brock Lesnar squashed the Big Show and then brutalized him with a steel chair in a dominating performance that served to further rehabilitate the Beast. And Randy Orton bested John Cena in a solid WWE title match. The show was alright, I guess. Number 9, Hell in a Cell. The ending to the main event of Hell in a Cell 2014 made the TLC finish seem like a masterpiece in comparison. Such a shame it was too, because Rollins and Ambrose were having themselves a damn fine match that started on top of the steel structure, featured stereo bumps off the side of it and through the announce table early on, and then found its way inside the cage for lots of weapons-based mayhem and violence. Then Bray Wyatt and his spooky hologram showed up for a cheap finish that served to further convince that WWE were getting their ideas by reading the big book of WCW failures. What's that saying about people who refuse to learn from history again? In the other Cell match, John Cena and Randy Orton collided with a future WWE title opportunity on the line. Cena won, naturally, after lots and lots of finishers, saving a sensational top rope AA through a table for last. In the opener, Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro had a fluid 2 out of 3 falls match that could have used another 5 minutes, truth be told. Ziggles won 2 straight to retain the Intercontinental title. Goldust and Stardust also retained gold in their match with the Usos, as did Sheamus in his US title match with The Miz, and as did AJ Lee in her Divas title outing with Paige. Wait, I'm sure some stuff happened on this show. Oh yeah, Nikki Bella rolled over Sister Brie, forcing her to become Nikki's personal assistant for 30 days or be fired per the stipulation. This one earned Booker T's shucky ducky quack quack moment of the show, so you know it's important. And finally, Rusev got a decisive victory over Big Show in a decent scrap. Number 8, Money in the Bank. Truth be told, there was a lot of filler at Money in the Bank 2014, but 3 great matches, one at the beginning, middle, and end of the show, elevate this one and make it an entertaining experience overall, and certainly well worth the $9.99 most people paid for it. As a matter of fact, there was at least $9.99 worth of entertainment in the Money in the Bank briefcase ladder match, during which Rollins, Ambrose, Swagger, RVD, Kofi Kingston, and Ziggler put everything on the line to create a 25-minute spectacle that featured several spots that had to be seen to be believed. Importantly, the match wasn't just moves, but had a lot of drama too, no more so than at the finish between Rollins and Ambrose. The main event 8-man ladder match was for the vacant World Heavyweight title, stripped from Daniel Bryan as he battled an injury. Another bruising battle, John Cena managed to outlast Kane, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio, Cesaro, and Bray Wyatt to capture the belt. How did he manage to come out on top against 7 premier athletes in a dangerous environment such as this? Oh, I don't know, perhaps a little something to do with rising above hate and never giving up. Just a hunch. In the show's opener, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan fell short in their tag team title effort with the Usos, but the match itself was certainly not short on quality and got the show going in some style. As for the aforementioned filler, how does Damian Sandow dressed like Paul Revere versus Adam Rose dressed like a wanker, Paige versus Naomi, Ryback versus Dust, Star and Gold, Rusev versus a pre-New Day Big E, and Layla versus Summer Rae sound to you? Sounds like an episode of Main Event to me. Number 7, Payback. Taking place the month before Money in the Bank, Payback had a very different feel to it, but it was another satisfying supercard with a couple of real standout matches to enjoy. The best of those was the main event, a no-holds-barred elimination match between the Shield and Evolution members Triple H, Randy Orton, and Blue Tista. Superbly worked with a lot of violence and big spots, this was a seesaw battle that effectively used the more established stars to get over the newer act. Credit to Big Dave, Big Rand, and Big Popper H for doing everything they could to elevate their opponents, who more than held their own. In other noteworthy happenings, John Cena and Bray Wyatt went hell for leather in a chaotic last man standing match. If you'd like to know the winner, just take a second and think about who could possibly rise above such an amazing amount of hate, while never for a single second thinking about giving up. There you go. In the show's opener, Sheamus and Cesaro continued their tradition of trying to make a boot impression in the other one's face. This, like every match between these two, was very good and will put hairs on your chest by simply watching it. A couple of other decent matches came in the form of Ryback versus Goldust and Cody Rhodes, and Rob Van Dam taking on Bad News Barrett for the IC strap. The show also featured a memorable segment between Daniel Bryan, Brie Bella, and Stephanie McMahon that ended with the Billion Dollar Princess getting belted across the face to a thunderous response. There were a couple of other so-so matches here and there, but on the whole, Payback was a strong and well-paced pay-per-view. Number 6, Night of Champions. You would expect a show called Night of Champions to feature 1 or 2 major title switches, and the 2014 edition of the event did not disappoint, treating us to 3 title changes and a bunch of decent matches to boot. The first one came in the opener, with Goldust and Stardust prevailing over the Usos in a smooth match with a feel-good finish. Neither man had to have felt good after what followed, another strong-style war between Sheamus and Cesaro. Though knackered as they had to have been, they could take solace in the fact that that they'd arguably had the best match of the night. Another title change came next as The Miz won another Intercontinental title, besting Dolph Ziggler. Not their best ever outing, this one was at least distinguished due to the antics of Damien Mizdow and R-Truth, who provided good value from ringside. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose once again didn't have an official match, but they did get to throw down in a disorderly brawl around the arena. Randy Orton and Chris Jericho did have a good match, but then why wouldn't they? Title change number 3 came in AJ Lee, Nikki Bella and Paige's Divas Championship triple threat, with Mrs. CM Punk coming out on top in a scrappy encounter. And finally, Brock Lesnar retained the WWE title against John Cena, but only just. The leader of the C Nation was tantalizingly close to getting the best of the beast before Seth Rollins, that weasel, ran in for the DQ. The Architect then attempted to cash in on Brock, but failed, and the show ended with our Viking Space Lords standing tall. Lovely. Number 5, Elimination Chamber. Taking place the night before the launch of the WWE Network, Elimination Chamber 2014 was the last WWE pay-per-view to be distributed solely by traditional methods. And what a pay-per-view it was, boasting 2 truly outstanding matches and plenty of progression on the road to WrestleMania. The first 2 matches were successful title defenses, Big E defeating Jack Swagger in an Intercontinental title affair, and then the New Age Outlaws, who were amazingly tag team champions in 2014, beating the Usos. The Battle of the Primetime Players followed, Titus O'Neil coming out on top against Darren Young in a blur match, after which the show really picked up steam. The 6-man between the Shield and the Wyatt family was a roaring success. A fast-moving thriller where everyone was determined to do whatever it took to entertain, this one built and built and built to a thundering finish in front of a rabid crowd and ranks up as one of the best matches of the year. Cameron and AJ Lee's short Divas title match proved a welcome quietening of the pace afterwards and helped give fans a breather before the 2 featured matches. It's sorry to say that this was often the position that the hard-working women were placed in before the women's revolution. Batista, working his first televised singles match in almost 4 years, got a win over Alberto Del Rio in a match that really could and should have been better. It wasn't bad, but something wasn't clicking with Batista's comeback run. Thankfully, that would be remedied in the very near future. And in the main event World Heavyweight Title Elimination Chamber match, Randy Orton retained against Cesaro, Daniel Bryan, John Cena, Sheamus, and Christian. Another awesome spectacle, the match came down to Orton and cult hero Bryan, whom fans desperately wanted to see in the WrestleMania main event. The final stretch was incredible, with fans really believing that the goat-faced wonder could do it, before Kane ran in and broke all of our hearts by helping the Viper to win. Watching in hindsight, it's easier to enjoy this knowing how it all turned out in the end for D. Bry, but we'll get to that later. Number 4, Extreme Rules. Oh, look at that, we're here already. So, as I was saying, it's easier to watch that Elimination Chamber ending knowing that Daniel Bryan would prevail in the end, winning the World Heavyweight title in the main event of WrestleMania 30. Sadly, Bryan's run with the belt would be short-lived due to an injury. At Extreme Rules 2014, we were treated to his sole pay-per-view title defense, an Extreme Rules match with former partner Kane. Was it Bryan's best match ever from a technical standpoint? No. Did it have him doing a diving headbutt off a forklift and the big red machine being put through a flaming table? Yes. So really, who needs hammerlocks? Bryan and Kane's wild and roaming top-liner served as a grand conclusion to what had been a great show. In the best match of the night, the Shield and Evolution clashed in a tremendous tussle where, once again, Rance, Trips and Big Dave worked their asses off and unselfishly did the favours. And in the other top bout, Bray Wyatt beat John Cena in a cage match via escape. But what he couldn't escape was John Cena's amazing ability to never give up and rise above hate, and so on. Oh yeah, and by the way, that finish with the kid was unconditionally ridiculous. Elsewhere, Cesaro beat Rob Van Dam and Jack Swagger in a triple threat elimination match, Rusev walloped R-Truth and Xavier Woods, Bad News Barrett won the IC title off of Big E, and Paige defended her Divas title over Tamina. Number 3, Survivor Series. Going into Survivor Series 2014, the card looked like a one-match show, and, wouldn't you know it, that's how things washed out. Kind of inevitable when most of your available top stars are booked in one match, I guess. In the traditional 10-man Survivor Series elimination tag team match, Team Authority, Kane, Luke Harper, Mark Henry, Rusev, and Seth Rollins took on Team Cena, Big Show, Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan, Ryback, and Cena, obviously. A fast and furious match that connected many
storyline threads at once, it came down to Rollins and Ziggler, who had put in a shift that would make Shawn Michaels proud after eliminating Kane and Luke Harper. In the closing moments, it looked as though Triple H was going to steal it for his goons when Sting shockingly made his WWE debut to spoil the party and enable the show-off to get the win. It was an outstanding end to the match and the show, Sting's appearance a truly iconic moment that many fans doubted would ever happen. In other activities, Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt were having themselves a nice little match until the DQ finish. Miz and Mizdow won the tag team titles in a four-way featuring champs Star and Goldust, the Usos, and Los Matadores. A nice payoff to their accidental angle. The Divas Elimination Tag match was a clean sweep for the babyfaces and most memorable for Tyson Kidd's douchey post-match celebration. Nikki Bella quickly won the Divas title from AJ Lee after a big old snog from Brie, and in a match that felt like it came straight out of 1995, Adam Rose and the Bunny took on Slater Gator, and the more I think about it, the more I'm just glad that people didn't have to pay full price for these things anymore. A little bit of junk on the show, sure, but there's enough here for it to crack the top 3 for the year. Number 2, SummerSlam. The second best pay-per-view of 2014, SummerSlam may not have been chock full of 5-star matches, but there was plenty of first-rate action, a few title changes, and a main event that, at the time, ranked as one of the most morbidly fascinating of all time. The World Heavyweight title match between John Cena and Brock Lesnar had received a strong build on television, and most had likely anticipated a back-and-forth match stuffed full of finishers, counters, and close false finishes. What we got, however, was one of the most one-sided title matches ever. In what amounted to an extended squash, Lesnar absolutely mauled Cena, steamrolling through him with suplexes, strikes, and F5s. Not even Cena, who I think we can all agree knows a thing or two about rising above hate and never giving up, could withstand it. It wasn't quite the same as the other famous Lesnar match from 2014, but it was still shocking and lingered long in the memory. In other good matches on a stacked card, Roman Reigns beat Randy Orton, and Seth Rollins beat Dean Ambrose in a lumberjack match. Stephanie McMahon put on an incredible show with Brie Bella. You sometimes forget how good Steph can be, and she was clearly feeling it here. That Nikki Bella turn was quite the shocker too. Elsewhere, Ziggler and Miz had match number 562 in their series, where Ziggles beat Mizzles for the hot potato that is the Intercontinental title. Paige beat AJ Lee for the Divas title in a short but spirited match. Bray Wyatt continued his good year with a win over Chris Jericho. And Rusev triumphed over Jack Swagger in a flag match. Not enough flag matches these days, in my opinion. Number 1, WrestleMania 30. The best show in 2014 for WWE was also the biggest and most important. WrestleMania 30, taking place in front of 75,000 at the the Superdome, had epic matches, one of the most well-received title changes ever, and probably the most stunning match result in WWE history. The show started with an amazing in-ring promo with host Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and Steve Austin, who looked to be having a lot of fun getting one over on the Hulkster after his audio flub. The meeting of wrestling's Mount Rushmore, minus Mojo Rawley of course, was followed up with an awesome back-and-forth match between Triple H and Daniel Bryan, with Bryan's spot in the WWE title main event on the line. Bryan won, and if you want to see what over looks like, go and watch the reaction to him here. The post-match beatdown from the game was effective and added yet more drama going into the show closer. The Shield, in their second ever WrestleMania appearance, beat the New Age Outlaws and Kane like jobbers, as well they should. Cesaro, who was in the process of gaining some real momentum at the time, won the inaugural and, let's be honest, best Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Sorry, Mojo. After that, John Cena had to rise above hate like never before as he took on Bray Wyatt, accompanied as ever by the Wyatt family. Thankfully, Cena isn't a man prone to giving up and managed to come out of the other side a winner. Wrong result, but the match itself was really good. The next match on the show wasn't good, but nobody is going to remember it for its quality anyway. The Undertaker and Lesnar could have been Flair and Steamboat out there, but everything before the Beast beat the streak is a little bit of a blur. Fans and wrestlers alike have debated the outcome of the match since it went down, and they will continue to do so, but regardless of where you stand on the subject, you can't deny that it was a powerful, once-in-a-lifetime moment that only something like professional wrestling can create. As an aside, the substandard quality of the match was mainly because the Phenom had sustained a concussion early on. He wouldn't wrestle another match for a full year. WWE's women competing for the Divas title in the Vicky Guerrero Invitational had the more than unenviable task of following the streak ending. They did their best with the time that they did have, and the effort was certainly there, but there was no way it was going to be memorable, used as a buffer between Taker Lesnar and the world title match. Speaking of, Daniel Bryan's conquest of Randy Orton and Batista was one of the best feel-good moments ever in wrestling. It paid off a long-running storyline, was a kick-ass match in its own right, and ended the show on a real high note. What a scene it was, Bryan holding the titles aloft as confetti and fans went wild for their unlikely hero. When it's done right, there is really nothing better. Two very enthusiastic index fingers in the air for WrestleMania.